YouTube as well as Instagram. If you all decide to show up this morning with us, first of all, I want to say welcome to the Coaches Cafe on this Figured Out Friday. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Today, I have a very special guest with me in the studio, Kimberly Weaver. We are super excited. She's going to tell you all a little more about herself and the beautiful thing, the resonating message that we have today. We're talking mental health in community, and that's actually how we met in one of our communities. So welcome back. If you're new to me in the Coaches Cafe on this Figured Out Friday, this is where you pull up and realize you no longer have to figure it out alone. I'm a licensed certified social worker and the plant-based boss. I pull up to help everyday people prevent disease, lifestyle disease, as well as improve your health markers. And that's from a holistic standpoint. And so through lifestyle education, just so you know, some behavior changes and community accountability. So in order that we can start doing life well, one thing that I know and that I believe when it comes to preventable chronic health conditions, if it's preventable, then it's reversible. And we all have the agency and the capacity to recover the recoverable, and our health is absolutely recoverable, including our mental health. So there are things that we can do to better support even our mental health. I'm excited again. I had to get that in there. And so welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning over there on Facebook. What I'm going to need you to do if you're on Facebook, because you're not going to see my amazing guest, Kimberly Weaver, out of Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm going to need you to head over to LinkedIn or YouTube so that you can see and experience the conversation. Good morning, Ross. Head over there to YouTube for me, Doing Life Well with Regina. Catch me at Doing Life Well with Regina. All right. Kimberly, welcome back, welcome back, welcome.
Yes.
Good morning, Sharon. Listen, Sharon, Kimberly and I was just having a small conversation about spirituality as well as, how this thing interfaces. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's my girl, Sharon. And so Kim has an amazing background in spirituality as well. So I told her, girl, we really got to connect on a deeper level. So, Kim.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for accepting the invitation to come back.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me back. I appreciate that.
Yes. So welcome to the Coaches Cafe. As I've stated, I have in the studio Kimberly Weaver, and we're talking mental health. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. May is also Stroke Awareness Month. So if you've been following my content, you've been getting a double fold this month. So we've been addressing both stroke awareness as well as your mental health awareness. So today, I decided to close out the month of May with having a special guest. Kim's no stranger to us. She's been with us before because we address mental health and the holidays. So if you want to hear about that and those practical tips that you can just live with anyway, make sure you go back and catch that replay also. Kim, let's get into our conversation today before we dive directly into it. Tell the people who you are, where you are, what you do. Give the people some context.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kimberly Weaver. Call me Kim. I'm a licensed clinical mental health counselor associate in Charlotte, North Carolina, but I'm originally from New York. So I'm a city girl in the South. And my focus is helping people heal from trauma, which includes complex developmental trauma, sexual, religious, or spiritual trauma, and racial trauma. And I also work with people struggling with anxiety and depression, but I'm really passionate about integrating faith and mental health. And so that's kind of where I sit in terms of a niche or a focus. And I'm excited to be here today to talk about community care and mental health and why we need people.
That is so powerful. I think sometimes we don't make that connection, one with our spirituality and our well-being and our health, our mental and
Yes.
emotional health. So thank you again for accepting your assignment and not shying away from it. So I'm super excited.
Yes.
So let's get into our conversation today. And again, if you are on Facebook, because I have my special guest in the studio with me today, I'm just asking if you want to see her lovely face. You may hear the content and you may not, but if you want to see her lovely face, then I will ask that you head over to YouTube or LinkedIn so that we can get this conversation, so you can be a part of the conversation. So excited to have Kimberly back with me, and we're going to get it started. So, Kim, when I reached out to you here this last time, you were posting about community. And I'm in several communities, and we'll bring those up later because I understand the value of community. But you were having a conversation, and I immediately was like, oh, we got to have that conversation. Thank you so much, Sharon, for sharing this out. So I want to start there because that hit me. It resonated so well that I was like, that's the next conversation. It was so powerful. That snippet was enough for me to like, we've got to expand that conversation. I need to get in on this conversation so that we can share it publicly. Again, there was a time when we were singing this song, INDEP, all that, without
Yes.
the recognition of what we were pointing to our own spirits and
Mhm.
owning that space. So that
Mhm.
I did this, I got it out the mud, and so that's more of an individual perspective. And
Yes.
we understand the value of community. So let's get into it with you. Everybody over on Facebook, if you'll head over to YouTube, Doing Life Well with Regina, or LinkedIn, I have an amazing guest here, and we're just about to get into our conversation. You will not be able to see her if you're on Facebook, so make sure you head over to YouTube, Doing Life Well with Regina. Kim,
Yes.
let's talk community.
Yeah, it is super important. And like you said, I do think we've been socialized or conditioned or, yeah, we've just internalized this belief that we have to do it on our own. And I know some of that comes from being in a capitalistic society and all of that, where it's very achievement focused and, we hear the message of you got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, right? But we also recognize that, especially for people of color, Black and Brown people, that there are systems in place that are set up to keep us down, right? And
Mhm,
so
mhm,
we need each other to kind
mhm,
of be able to thwart those systems and persevere and be resilient. And so there's a lot that goes into it. And I know we'll get into it, but even when we think about being Christians or even if you're just spiritual, there's
mhm,
this belief that we are all connected, right? And so we can't do life apart from each other. And I think our hurts and our past and different things kind of make us feel that we have to do it all alone, or that we
mhm,
don't want to be a burden for others if we ask for help or support. But that can't be further from the truth. And we're both in the wellness space, with you focusing more on the physical aspects of me on the mental health, but it's all related and connected. And social isolation has dire consequences, not only on your mental health, but even your physical health. And I'll get into some statistics later that I think you'll appreciate, Regina. And so, yeah, it's huge. And it's so important. And so I think, especially in where we're at today in a society, being able to go back to a place of like, we are a collective people doing life and experiencing life in this society, we need each other. And that's how we're going to really persevere and be resilient, especially in this time.
That is so powerful. Thank you. Being deconditioned from
Hmm.
how we've been conditioned for so many years,
Hmm.
and to start having honest conversations to break that down. I remember when I was working years ago in mental health at a large state institution, And I worked on a receiving unit where all of my patients were females
Mm-hmm.
and all of my team members were females. And I would often get asked, how do you work with all those women? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and so I did not understand that frame of reference because I've always curated wherever I go relationships and understand, that we, in order to support each other in this space, then
Mm-hmm.
being able to connect and close the gap between our
Yes.
differences.
Yes.
And so the fact that that was over 10 years ago, and now we are still having this conversation of the
Mm-hmm.
value and the importance of tapping into our greatest strengths and
Mm-hmm.
using our strengths to better serve one another and better to walk alongside one
Mm-hmm.
another and to lift up our differences. So we absolutely, and I like to make a joke too, with say, Lone Ranger. Even though
Mm-hmm.
his name was Lone Ranger, he had Tonto, right? He
Yes.
was not
Yeah. He
alone.
still was not alone.
He
Yep.
still was not alone. So it always
Mm-hmm.
fascinates me when we have this idea that we can do life alone, and that's just so far from the truth. So, before
Yes.
we really get into the clinical side, and we just have a few questions that we'll navigate through on
Mm-hmm.
today, when you hear the phrase healing in community, what is the very first image or memory that actually comes to mind for you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was funny. I was reflecting on all of this and had a realization that when I think about healing in community, all of it is in the context of the church, and I think that
Mhm,
is such a beautiful thing, especially because there is such a stigma sometimes around. I think we're getting better these days,
mhm,
but there's still a stigma around mental health in faith-based communities. But to recognize and look back over my life and realize that, yeah, a lot of my community and feeling supported came from
mhm.
the church
Okay,
context or from
okay.
other Christians. And so one that stands out in particular is I had experienced a traumatic event and really leaned on, I think my pastor's probably the first ones that I called because at the time my parents were not living in the state.
Mhm,
And so they responded by coming to get me and allowing me to stay in their house. And we were in Brooklyn. And so they were in a small apartment, but they were like, here, you can have our bedroom. Just we want you to feel safe and you can go sleep. And so that was part of it. But then the other part of it was that they provided 10 free sessions of therapy for me to receive after that event. And that was pivotal because I'm like, we don't talk about this. Where
mhm,
I grew up in church,
mhm,
like it
mhm,
was not a thing. And to think that you see the value in people receiving therapy and knowing that it's okay to have Jesus and also have a therapist. And so that community really supported me. They also was there when I lost my brother and came and did the service for us. And so I think that would be like my main memory of healing in community. Are you still there? Did we lose you?
There we go.
Okay.
I was
Can you hear me?
intercepted. So, yes, you were
Okay.
deep into it.
Yes. What's the last thing you heard?
So because that's something that we just naturally have not talked about or showed up in that space. We have,
Mhm.
therapy in the church, having that conversation. So you had got
Mhm.
10 free sessions.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, so that happened. They also supported me when my I said they also supported me when my brother passed away, and, that was
Mhm,
phenomenal because he was not a part of a church, but my church came around because
mhm.
I was a part of it and supported my family, and so, yeah, I would say that was probably, like, my greatest memory of healing in community.
Yeah, I'm down here what we call the Bible Belt,
Mm.
and from what you just described, that's still not the typical
Mhm.
experience when
Mhm.
you think about faith, because it has been my experience, and I can only speak from my perspective,
Right.
and that is these very few words: pray about it's going to be all right.
Mhm. Yep.
There was no real recognition for having that honest conversation that I need God, and
Mhm.
it's okay to have God and
Yes.
a good faith-based therapist.
Yeah.
And so there are some things that when pastors go through seminary, they're not, I don't know what they're doing now, but in
Mhm.
terms of a deep level of being trauma informed,
Mhm.
having a background to where people are bringing you all the things,
Yes.
and so I'm just going to go to my pastor, and and I respect that
Mhm.
100%, but ain't no but, and at the same
And
time,
yes.
God gave us all gifts. Yes. I know,
Mhm.
but God gave us these gifts, skills, and abilities. He gave us a comment over here on YouTube that says God has given us resources.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so
He
being
has.
able to be utilize the resources. Go ahead, Kim.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, he definitely has given us resources, and I think we have no problem going to, well, some people do have a problem going to the doctor, but we have no problem going to the doctor or yeah, admitting that we need help physically, right? And so why is there such an issue when it comes to our mental health? It's the same thing. You need support in that area as well, because there are people that have certain expertise, and that is a gift from God, that they have
Mhm,
this
mhm.
expertise to help you in this way.
Yes. We know that people are, and I hear it, like people are struggling,
Mhm.
and they're struggling in isolation. So when it comes to mental health, why do you believe that people naturally pull away
Mhm.
really when they need it the most?
Yes. I think there's a lot of feeling of shame. I think another message that we've been conditioned to believe is that, we have to be strong. Like, showing any sign
Mhm.
of asking for help is seen as a sign of weakness, right? And so I think there's this belief that, yeah, if you're not doing it all, if you're not pushing through, um, then
Mhm.
something's wrong. And people are always, people feel that other people are judging them or criticizing them for where they're at, but not recognizing that we all have something that we're struggling with or going through, right? um, and so I think that's part of it. I think people avoid discomfort. And I
Mhm.
think being able to speak up for your needs sometimes can feel uncomfortable. People avoid conflict. And so they don't want to cause any tension in their relationships if they are now asking for help. Um, and so, yeah, there's a lot of different things, but I think there's a big piece around like shame and believing that if I ask for help, then that's admitting that something is wrong with me or that I'm weak. But it's just admitting that you're human. We all go through things, and that's a part of life and the human experience. And so I think people aren't always honest with where they're at. And I'm gonna pause.
Absolutely. The one that's showing up for everybody. I have a comment over here that says, I have to be strong for everybody. And,
Hmm.
that's one of the things that just having that conversation about, like, we get these posts, we see these things that says, check on the strong friend, and you're looking in
Hmm.
the mirror saying, I am the strong friend. How do I
Hmm.
check on myself? Like, where do I
Hmm.
go? Because I am that. And so what hit me too in my thought was the fact that we have the idea of, you know what, if I give any inclination that it seems like I can't handle it, then what am I really admitting about myself? You know,
Mm-hmm.
I've been carrying this way. I used to call it when I was in the workplace, I am the go to person. But then the
Mm-hmm.
go to person needs somebody to go
Yes.
to.
Yes, that is correct. Yeah. Because the consequence is that you are going to burn yourself out, you're going to get exhausted, you're going to be stressed out, right? And that also affects you physically. And so,
Mhm, mhm,
heart disease, you said this is stroke awareness a month, right? All of that high blood pressure from the chronic stress that we are under when we can't feel like we can't say no or we can't relax. And I think another thing
mhm,
is people are afraid of failing,
mhm,
and admitting that, like, if I don't do this, then am I now a failure? Right. And so I think also the other issue is like people are in identity crisis. And so it's like, what are you placing your identity, your value, your worth in? And if it's in doing, and I think we talked about this in our last time together, like we are human beings and not human doings, right? And so, but if you have placed your value in doing, that's where you're gonna feel fulfilled in. But those things don't last. And so what are the things that you can invest in that's going to last? And that's you and your health.
mhm. I want to take this question, Ashley, from YouTube, and have you to help us address it. And she says, "This is the same beautiful soul that says I have to be strong for everybody. And
Mhm.
so, how do I check myself as being the strong one?
Mhm. Check in on yourself or to find support.
Check herself, like
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
support level." Mhm,
Yes. And so I think the first step is having self-awareness. And so really being able to admit that, hey, like this is not no longer working. Maybe I've been functioning in this way for so long, but it's no longer working. And sometimes we can get used to functioning in chaos, right? And so we don't really know what true peace is. But you got to be willing to try something new, try a new normal. And so I think the first step is really getting in tune with your emotions and what you are actually feeling. And so
mhm,
one of the things that I like to say is like our emotions simply communicate something that we need. And so if you are feeling, let's say, sadness, that means you need connection. And so that
mhm,
means it's either connecting to yourself or to others or to your purpose. And so, what are the things that help you feel connected and grounded? And so that's a place to start. But then I think also just challenging that belief, like, why do I struggle so much with asking for help? Why do I
mhm.
struggle with voicing my needs and knowing that it's okay to have needs? It's a part of being human.
Wow, I love that. And if you are taking notes, drop this one in the comments. She said a powerful statement. I don't know if you all heard Kimberly when she made the statement: "We are human beings, not
Mhm.
human doings." But we find ourselves utilizing the inverse so often, like doing, 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 and not
Mhm.
knowing when to stop, when to delegate, when to puts a lot of pressure on us when we are showing up for everybody all the time. There is a place for recovering the recoverable within you, but being in community helps you to see that.
Mhm.
It really helps you to see that. So we do not want to operate in isolation. That further, if you have any type of mental health background or any kind of space with mental health, such as depression or some anxiety, isolation is just not the friend. Would you say, Kim?
Mhm. No, it's not. It's not a good friend. Not a good friend at all. And I was just thinking another challenge people have is like sometimes they don't know who to trust or who they can go to for help, right? And I know there's a lot of people, especially if you have trauma backgrounds, that like the people in your circle, like your family or your closest to you, like you can't really trust. And especially if you've been the person to be the strong friend and take care of everybody. And so that's when I recommend having like a therapist. And this
Mhm.
is someone that's going to be there for you, and for you only, right? And have that unbiased perspective and objective and just hold space for you. And so, even if you're at that place, like when I look around at who's around me, I really can't go to them, then maybe this is a good time to consider like just having a therapist. So, you do at least have that one outlet to voice what you need, right? And
Yeah.
get that support.
Yeah.
Um, but then the other part of that is to also giving people opportunities to show up for you
Mhm.
and actually prove you wrong. And so a lot of times we make assumptions about people without fully knowing like how they would respond.
Mhm.
And so we assume people should just know, or people, because I give so much, people should be giving, right? And that's not necessarily the case. People have different capacities, you know?
Right.
And if you have unspoken expectations,
Mhm.
then they're not going to get met.
That's
And so
right.
you have to communicate. Um, and I know that is hard and can be uncomfortable, but you have to try. Um,
Yeah. Let's talk about as a therapist, you see a lot on these journeys. Like some people are operating in community, some are not. Where do you see the limits to that solo healing? Because people,
mhm,
we're in a space where I'm doing the work, right?
mhm.
I'm doing this work, I'm doing the work, I'm doing the work on myself. And so, where do you see the limits with this solo healing process?
Yes. Yeah. So I'm a therapist and obviously I'm a proponent for therapy, but I also know that therapy is not the only way that people can heal. There are so many other ways that you can experience healing. But before I get into the answer to your question, I did want to share some statistics because I
Yes.
think this just highlights like the importance of community. And so there was a report that was released in 2023 from the Surgeon General of the United States. And I think at the time it was like loneliness is the new epidemic, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and so it says that loneliness and social isolation increase the risk of premature death by 26 to 29%.
State that again. For
Premature
those in the
death.
back, state that again. That is powerful. State that again.
Loneliness and social isolation increase the risk for premature death by 26 and 29%, respectively. Then it says, in addition, poor or insufficient social connection is associated with an increased risk of disease, including a 29% risk of heart disease and a 32% increased risk of stroke. Isolation. In addition, it's also associated with increased risk for anxiety, depression, and dementia. And so it's not just like a mental thing. And it also even said people are more susceptible to viruses and respiratory illnesses, which is like crazy,
You don't
you
even make
know?
the connection.
Mhm. Mhm. And there's so much more, but I wanted to highlight some of the physical aspects because we don't often connect to that, we are mind, body, soul, and spirit,
Mhm.
and everything affects each other.
Yeah, yeah. And when you're not, it shows up. And there's this book too that says the body keeps score.
Mhm.
It shows up in isolation over here on YouTube. Isolation is a tactic of the enemy.
Mhm. Yes.
And just
Yeah.
so the stats that you just shared are, if you'll send me that, because I definitely want to put that in the comments so that people can really just come back to that space to realize when I'm operating or making these efforts to not be in community, or I'm not connected for whatever reason,
Mhm.
then I increase my risk for physical health conditions
Yes.
such as a stroke, such as a heart attack, such as a
Mhm.
premature death. And
Mm-hmm.
so we can do these things to recover our whole health. And we can do
Yeah.
that outside of being carrying the burden of isolation.
Yes.
Like, and regardless of what position you're in, every
Mm-hmm.
person, whether you're the CEO, the president, the executive director, or if you are the personnel that keeps the place clean, if you are, a team member, and everybody has value for
Mm-hmm.
their health, their
Mm-hmm.
whole health.
Yes. Yeah.
We're after the whole health,
Mm-hmm.
mental and
Mm-hmm.
physical. Kim just made the connection. I didn't know she was going to make it like that, but Kim just made the connection that when we're operating in isolation, we're setting ourselves up unintentionally, because you don't know that. You don't know that the loner over here that I am, I'm increasing my risk for a premature death.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I
When
think,
you Go ahead.
and I was gonna say, I think the challenge that like to whoever commented, like it's a strategy, isolation is a strategy of the enemy. It's because when we get alone, we only have our voice to measure life against, right? And
Mhm,
a lot of times our inner voice is super critical, right? We're not always saying good things or like, good job, you did great, right? Especially when you're in a space of isolation. And I know we're getting to this later, but um, when you are alone, you don't have those voices to pour into you,
mhm.
to remind you of what's true about yourself, or
Yes.
to say like, here's a resource, right? And so we can't meet all of our needs on our own, because we're not made that, we're not created that way,
Mm,
you know. Like
mm,
if we could, we wouldn't need God, we wouldn't need a savior, right? And
right.
so we're not all little gods running around here. We need people,
We
right?
need people. We need
Yeah.
people. We
And
need
so
people. Yes.
so healing cannot, I think there's aspects of healing that can happen alone,
Yeah.
but to go to greater levels of healing, you need other people, and
Yeah.
you also need Jesus. But
You need a whole lot of Jesus, right?
yes, yes. So
Forsake not the
I'm not
assembly.
dismissing that too. Jesus
That's
can do it
right.
in a
Yes.
heartbeat.
He
But
says, forsake not the assembly, like in
yes.
Hebrews. And so when we think about how does our immediate community, the voices that we allow closest to us,
Hmm.
shape our internal thinking and, some of the decisions that we make about our mental health. How does our
Hmm.
immediate community impact that and help shape
Yeah.
that?
I think it's so important. So a lot of that work that I do, especially around trauma, is identifying childhood experiences that have um, helped us to internalize certain messages, certain
Mhm,
negative beliefs about ourselves. And usually it's shaped from, it could be really traumatic
mhm,
things or just one thing someone said, especially when it comes to our early development. And so when we think about children, who is the first voice that they hear? It's typically their primary caregivers, so their parents, those in their immediate family. And so I think about first, like your attachment style, and that's simply like, how did you attach to your primary caregivers? And so, if they were always there for you, you can go to them when you
mhm.
had needs and they responded, then you kind of have a secure attachment. But if they were inconsistent or they were neglectful, then you could be insecure. And so, I think all of that shapes then how we tend to relate to others, right? And so, I think thinking about those experiences in my life and how that has either in your life and how that has either caused you to be more open and trusting with people or maybe a little bit more fearful, and also thinking about how did those voices shape how I view myself. And so if you had a parent that was super demanding or expected high performance from you, you're probably a little bit anxious, right? Because now you're just trying to strive and perform, but that's also a voice that has shaped that message. And so a lot of the healing work too is changing those narratives that you believe about yourself into something more helpful and adaptive. And so maybe it's no longer that I have to perform to earn love. I am loved just the way that I am, you
Yeah.
know? And so you don't get to hear that if you're not exposed to different voices, right? And so, and you also, I think, can't really have reparative or healing experiences if you're not placing yourself in community. And so, one of the things that I say is that hurt people, but
Mhm.
healed people heal people. And
Yeah.
so you can't experience,
Yes.
a repair or a good experience of relationship if you're in complete isolation, because not all relationships are going to be bad. Um, and so I think about just being discerning
Mhm.
about who are the people that you can trust and allowing yourself to take a step of vulnerability so that they can show up for you. And I
Yeah.
think you'll realize there are probably more people willing to show up for you than not.
Yeah. Thank you. When you think about that, sometimes we are in our own heads and we stay there and we
Mhm.
allow these unhealthy thoughts take up so much mental real estate
Mhm.
rent free,
Rent
and it's
free.
just
Yes. Yes.
a chore taking up so much mental real estate. And the smallest thing, that reaching out, that having that conversation again, like you said, with discernment, because as we're doing the work and we're learning how to discern and understand it, whatever those things were that were not as helpful for me in my life, where I experienced trauma, where I experienced disrepair, well, I want to learn how to live my life and not my story. And so
Mhm.
being able to
Mhm.
have repairs and start living your life and being okay with releasing your story so that you can show up
Mhm.
in spaces and be able to, receive love, because you
Mhm.
are worthy of love just the way you are. Like there is
Yes.
no fixing it up. There is no here I am 7 days a week, but
Mhm.
just being in a place or having the communities that you are able to feel seen, heard, and supported and
Mhm.
loved in that space.
Yes. It's so important.
Yeah, yeah. So we're about to make a little bridge here. If you're ready,
Mhm.
or if
Yeah, let's
there's
do it.
anything, okay, we're about to make a little bridge. Um, we're talking about this thing, this mental health perspective. How do we do life together? And we're walking you through just some narratives, some conversations, why it's important to not to walk alone as we are doing this work to improve our overall health. Kim gave some statistics about the impact of doing this life alone. And so she and I met. I phrased this, I titled this live as mental health in community, mental health and you in community, because we
Mhm.
just cannot do this life alone. Kim and I met in one of our communities, and we're going to shift and lean into some of our communities, because there are communities out there
Mhm.
that we can tap into. And I want Kim to kind of share how we met, and the fact that, and then after that, we're going to share a joint space that I'm going to talk about a joint space that we're both going to be stepping into as well. So, Kim,
Mhm.
tell the people how we met and how,
Yes.
look, and why you keep coming back.
I know. It's okay. I love it though. Um, yeah, so Regina and I met through Black Christian Influencers, which is a ministry organization that was created to support primarily Christian social media influencers. But I would say as Christians, we all have a certain level of
Mhm.
influence, right? And so it's not just limited to social media influencers. Um, but yeah, we met through that, I think we were doing like a social media challenge where we would
Yeah.
have to post content regularly and get support and feedback. And so that's how we met. And yeah, we've been locked in ever since. So
We've been locked in ever since. And before I connected with BCI, Black Christian Influencers, well, my connection started when I was working on my LCSW, Kim. And
mm,
we get these evaluations every so often. I know you're, in the space, and I was working on my LCSW, getting
mhm,
these feedbacks, evaluations. And my lowest mark was because I was not connected with any organization, any profession.
mm,
And I was
mm.
like, girl, what are you gonna do about
Yes, it
that?
is a requirement of our
It's a requirement.
programs.
And
Yes.
I didn't realize that I was so disconnected from community because I was okay, or so I
Mhm.
thought. And now
Mhm.
understanding, like really having a great value for community, I started like when I got that evaluation, I became aware,
Yes.
because again, I was in my own head all this time. So I have these few, but not the community that can really show up in different ways because one community, one person will not, provide you with everything that you need in terms of support. And
Mhm.
so when we met in Black Christian Influencers, it has been I say a low stress community,
Mhm.
but a very beautiful one where we're able to
Yeah.
show up and have support, engage with each other, and to really just encourage one another as believers
Mhm.
in this work
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
terms of in your space, whatever influence you have. If you are a believer, walking that confidently. So just being able to do this. So you're going to get
Mhm.
ready to step on the stage in Chicago real
Yes.
soon.
And so are you.
And so am I. And so am I. Without giving away your message, give the people
Mhm.
just a little about the collective healing and what you're preparing to
Mhm.
bring, because
Mhm.
I know that's some work that you do intentionally on a regular basis. So don't give the people the message. Y'all come to
Yes.
Chicago
Yes.
because we
Yeah.
have these codes. $100 off if you're in the Chicago area, or if you need a vacation, a trip, that would be
Mhm.
a great time to just come and get you a little getaway. So, Kim, talk to us
Yes.
about just that part.
Yeah. And so one of the things I share when I got connected to BCI, it was at like a really hard time in my life, but it was so inspiring and it really like was the wind beneath my wings to continue to push me forward,
Mhm,
especially in this work. And so and that's just like one aspect of community, right? Being able to have that inspiration to know that like you're not alone, but also like again, here are the resources, here are the ways that we want to come alongside you and support you. And so that was super powerful. And one of the things I'm going to be talking about is what we're talking about here, community care, and why it's so necessary for our well-being, and our mental, physical, and spiritual health. Because yeah, we don't experience things. We think we experience things alone and it's just us that are going through things. But hurt, pain, trauma, that's universal.
mhm,
Someone somewhere has experienced something. It might not be your exact experience, but
mhm,
they have experienced some level of hurt.
mhm.
And so allowing yourself to be able to be seen and supported in that is super important.
I'm excited because just finally coming to a place to appreciate community.
Hmm.
And going to the stage, I'll be sharing recovering the recoverable.
Mm,
And my message is partnering with heaven to recover our health.
mm,
And we do
mhm,
that even in community. And so being able to, so I'm whole food plant based and I'm in the Bible Belt and we just cook and fry everything. And so
mhm,
that is not having a supportive community that walks with me around the journey that I'm on,
mhm.
because it is a
Yeah,
struggle.
that
And
accountability, right?
that accountability, that support, that
Mhm,
you're trying this new thing, try another new thing opposed to, I cannot believe you eating it. I wouldn't dare eat that. So community matters,
mhm,
and so again, having a variety of communities um to support you as you're navigating this thing called life, because we say that life be life, and I like to
mhm.
tell people God be God too, right? He
Yes,
give
that's
us
right.
he want us to be
Mhm,
in community. Even when you think about Jesus and his disciples, there was 12 and then there was three. There
mhm.
was not one, and so
Yes.
even so when we think about it from that perspective and just really having those intimate conversations, that it is okay to create and curate. And if you don't have the community, create and curate.
Mhm,
And so beyond BCI, what are some other supportive communities that you're a part of, or that
mhm.
just in general um, could be communities for people to explore?
Yeah. Um, this might be a little niche, but
Okay, come on with it.
something else that's like super important to me. And so my framework of thinking about wellness is thinking about soul care, self care, and community care. That's also something that I'll be sharing at BCI. But soul care has been one of those things that have been so transformative for me. And so I've been blessed to be connected to a group of women. And an institute. So I just became certified as a spiritual director. So um,
Congratulations.
yes, and I'll shout them out. They're called Peacock Soul Care. But it's partially a group of women, but also some great men too that prioritize the discipline of being still and really listening to the voice of God. And so it's like removing all of the noise and really like when I pray, is it just me that's talking or am I actually listening to hear what God could be saying, right? Am I actually slowing down long enough to see where he has been at work in my life in this past week or this past day, right? And so that includes a lot of retreats, silent retreats, a lot of prayer community and all this stuff. But that has been something that has been so helpful for my well-being. And
Mhm.
so opportunities for soul care. Um, and then something else, I haven't fully gotten into it, but I've also been doing some dance classes
Okay.
and those are always great communities, like going salsa dancing
Mhm.
or something like that, because they it's actually a social dance, right? You have to dance with someone if you're
Yes.
doing salsa, and that can be a little uncomfortable. But in it, it's just a beautiful space to gather and connect and just have fun and move your body, right? And so definitely recommend that. Run clubs have been huge in
Mhm.
my city. Um, or even just volunteering, you know?
Mhm.
And so what is a nonprofit or a cause? Or even advocacy. Oh my gosh, we won't get into that. That's a whole nother conversation. But with all of the the voter suppression happening,
Mhm.
what are
Mhm.
ways you can, advocate in your community, right? So there's so many ways to get involved or get connected, whether you're introverted or extroverted. It's
There
just
is space.
being willing to put yourself out there.
There is a seat at the table for everybody. And not only that, if the table is not the table for you, create your own
Create
table.
it.
Create your
Mhm.
own table. And you just mentioned something that I didn't really think about from a community standpoint, and that is dance clubs.
Mhm.
One of my good friends out of Texas, she does Zumba every week, and it's like a group of
Mhm.
people that show up every week to move your body and be in community.
Yep.
So we have this one idea about what we're showing up for, but people leave these dance events, these run events, these run
Mhm.
clubs just feeling so connected because
Yeah.
the things that we have in common are so much greater than the things that we tend to believe separate us
Mhm.
so I'm excited about
Yes.
that. So
Yes.
I'm very excited. I want you to send me that information too about
Mhm.
your soul care, self care, so that I can drop
Mhm.
that in our comments as
Sure.
well and the show description over on YouTube for those that want to connect with you. And for
Mhm.
me, one of my communities again is BCI, Black Christian Influencers. But also, I have on here, and she's been chiming in very well, is HOB, Her Open Bible. I've been with Her
Mhm.
Open Bible
Mhm.
community for over 2 years now. And so
Yes.
it's just been a place of connection for the word, for a monthly word, like you're studying with intentionality, you're having conversation with
Mhm.
intentionality, including weekly reflections, like you talked about the silent retreats. And I'll say this one that we're in now, where she's done some guided, some audios, and so
Mhm.
you listen to like a 3 minute audio, and you're just reflecting,
Mhm.
and you come back and you sit in that space and really just reflect on that point, after you've read. But now let me listen. Who hear the words? So then we
Yes.
listen and then come back and have those conversations. So I also want to, if you're out there and feel like you are isolated and alone. Kim mentioned some communities. Kim, I'm going to ask you to mention those communities again, as
Mhm.
well as when people leave this session and they walk away and they come back and watch the replay. Um, what is one shift in their perspective you hope they walk away with?
Mhm. Yeah. Okay, so some of the communities, again, is Peacock Soul Care, and you can participate in that from wherever you're at. It's a national organization,
Mhm.
and that's if you're looking for more of a spiritual connection, and something that's maybe a little bit different from just church and normal worship. But then, like we said, some like fitness classes or dancing classes, volunteering, advocacy work, or yeah, just whatever way you can use your gifts, right? And a lot of times, maybe if we're working more traditional jobs or it's not ministry related, we feel like, oh, we're not really like using our gifts, but there's still a way for you to use your gifts, right? And so figuring that out. Um, and then I would say one thing to I have 2 things.
Okay.
So one is quick. Uh, it's okay to ask someone for help.
Yeah.
And so, who is one person where it feels kind of like low risk? What is
Mhm.
one thing that feels not too burdensome
Mhm.
that I can ask somebody for? And that's simply to remind yourself that it's okay. And so, take that small step to get out of your comfort zone and to ask for help, especially for the people that do it all. Just remind yourself that it's okay and that someone will show up for me, right? And then also, I think about identifying your personal board of directors. And
Okay.
so, with this, um, thinking about if you think about a company or an organization, like they have a board, and each board member has a certain thing that they bring to the board to help the organization grow, right? And so, it's the same way for us. We all have certain people that we need to help us grow. And so, quick one, your primary care physician should be on your board, right? Your pastor should be on your board. Maybe it's your best friend or your husband, your spouse, um, your mom or your dad, your therapist. So if you don't have a therapist, I would say add a therapist to your board. I also have a spiritual director on my board. So like who are the people? And when you see it that way, you realize, wow, there's actually a lot of people in my network. Even my hairstylist. My hairstylist is on my board because girl, I can't do it without her. So
Listen, a lot of conversation go down in the bowl.
yes, yes,
And
yes.
at the barbershop too.
And at the barbershop. So put your barber on
Yes.
your board and you realize like, wow, I do have this constellation of people
Mhm.
that are caring for me. And
Mhm.
that's essentially what they're doing, you know?
Mhm. I love that. So as you're listening to us today, and if you are having, struggling with your mental health or in isolation, just a few small things. I love how Kim said a low risk. If you are the go to person, if you are the strong friend that everybody comes to, and before 7 o'clock this morning, you've already gotten 3 texts. Like, what time are you going to respond to me? And
Mhm.
so, because you are that strong person that tends to have to check on yourself, Kim, we're inviting you to one low risk thing
That you can
that
ask for help for.
that you can ask for help with. And you're going to find
Mhm.
out that people really want to show up for you. You don't have to carry it alone. This is mental real estate that we've been carrying, that I have to carry it alone, but we don't have to carry it alone. Kim also just mentioned a beautiful, beautiful perspective. When we look around and we're having conversations, there are these certain people that we naturally engage with. And if we're not naturally engaging with them, I do highly encourage you to have I think I know you mentioned pastor, but your physician,
Mhm.
someone you can actually
Yeah,
sit
that was the
down.
first thing I said.
That's
You
right.
need a doctor.
You need a doctor to have a honest conversation. Do not go into
Mhm.
your medical doctor's office and not tell the truth. They can only
Mhm.
support you with the information that you provide them.
Yeah, and I will say, because I know there's some mistrust when it
Yes.
comes to medical practitioners, but if they don't have that good rapport, that
Mhm.
bedside manner,
Mhm.
on to the next, right?
That's right.
Keep searching for who is going to be the right fit for you.
Yep.
Don't give up on that.
Don't give up and don't stay just because. I
Hmm.
have had some wonderful, wonderful practitioners. And recently switched over to a new practitioner because my practitioner shifted and is doing some amazing things. And so we're actually, very, very good friends. And so that relationship built over time. But my new practitioner is just as amazing. So if you're not getting not just prescription care, that's not what I'm
Mhm.
talking about. It's the
Mhm.
relational care, even with your
Yes.
practitioner. But
Yeah.
creating your board of directors, that could be a good friend, pastor, physician, therapist, spiritual director, beauty, barber, friend, spouse. Don't put all
Mhm.
that. Don't put all that pressure on your partner. Create you a board of directors that could help you
Mhm.
along the way. And so I just want to say also, as we are just kind of wrapping up this conversation around community. Kim shared some community that she's a part of. Check out your
Mhm.
local areas. There is so much going on in your local
Mhm.
space, as well as, there were some horrendous, awful things that transpired through COVID, but being able to connect virtually and have even
Mhm.
quality communities online have been an
Yes.
amazing thing. And so
Yeah, this is a community in and of itself, you know?
yes,
Mhm.
yes. Establishing online. I mentioned her open Bible with Sharon Neely. That is a spiritual space
Mhm.
as well. I'm also connected. If you all see this T-shirt, it says "God rest." That is a
Mm.
big proponent of your mental health. It is
Mhm.
also a huge proponent of your physical health. And so, not only am I the founder of Doing Life Well Integrative Health and Consulting, I'm also the co-executive director of Black Women Do Heal. And this is
Mm.
one of we actually got a state proclamation this past March, a collective day of rest in Mississippi. And so when you think about where can I go? I don't know where to go. This is a nonprofit organization, and we show up to provide mental health support. So if you are the go-to person, if you are the one that's carrying all the way, you don't have to carry. You don't even have to show up and say a single word. This is a space where you just get to show up. And as we're just want to extend an invitation. If you're in the Jackson or the surrounding areas, we have a day of collective rest actually coming up this Friday, June
I
5th.
love that. Wow.
Yes, it's a pop up. No
Mhm.
low pressure pop up day of collective rest. So I will drop that information. So your communities matter. Being connected matters. And so I'm also very excited to, and I've announced this a little as well. When you have that passion for what you do, mine is health and wellness. I want to help as many people as I possibly can to prevent you from having a lifestyle disease that may end up with a slow death. Or if you have it, then what can we do to reduce your risk factors and to improve your health outcomes? And so another community that I recently have become a part of, and that's Food for Life. And so we're using food as medicine. I'm excited that I'll be having live cooking demonstrations. Some of them will be virtually, and some of them will actually be in person. So when you think about your board of directors, even not just an individual person, but then those
Mhm.
organizations as a board of directors for your
Yes.
navigation. And so BCI, Black Christian Influencers, is one of ours that's at the top. Share your
Mhm.
spiritual community again, Kim.
Peacock Soul Care.
Peacock Soul Care, Her
Mhm.
Open Bible, Black Women Do Heal. Your turn, Kim. Holla out another one. Where?
Oh, let's see. I'll I'll do my church. Manna
Yes,
House.
yes. What's the name of your
Yes,
church?
it's called Manna House.
Manna
Manna House.
Manna House. Planted Strong. That's Javina Clark and the Planet Strong plant-based community. Again, what are those communities that help to support you? And then I'm gonna shout out two more communities before I allow Kim to have some closing words. I have several whole food plant-based certifications. One of them came through the plant protocol with Lisa Angel Smith, who now runs a community that's dedicated to the elimination of chronic stress. So if you are, that leads to mental health issues as well, unaddressed chronic stress. And so if you are looking for a space around that, like you're dealing and navigating with chronic stress, make sure you check out Lisa A. Smith with the Clarity community. And then out of Atlanta, Georgia, the Blair, she is doing some phenomenal work with women in. And so those have been some communities that, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And so I've had the opportunity to walk in different communities that have helped me to shape, some things and where I am. And so I'm so super grateful, Kim, that you took the time to come on this morning. We're sharing community.
Mhm.
Like, we cannot do this life alone. In order
Mhm.
for us to recover the recoverable, our mental health too is recoverable. We do not and cannot do life alone.
Mhm.
Kim, I want you to give us our parting words for today.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I will say God is the chair of your board, and he can help connect you to the resources. He can help you identify what you need because sometimes we don't know, but
Mhm.
he can also open the doors for you to be connected to the resources that you need and the people that you need to do life well with. And so, yeah, don't forget that God is the ultimate connector.
Yes. I pray that you would prosper and be in good health, even as your soul shall prosper. 3rd John 1 and 2.
Hmm.
With God as our chair of the board, he will give you discernment how to curate your board. Kim, it has been my pleasure to have
Yes.
you on again. And we were backstage, y'all, before we get out of here, but we were backstage having a conversation. And so I'm looking forward, I'm excited about, I'm giving myself time to start my podcast. But Kim is going to be a regular conversationist on our podcast when we get that sugar going. So I just want to thank Kim for showing up, pulling up, always saying yes. Kim, why do you always say yes to me?
Because why not? Why not say yes?
Yes,
But you
yes.
have become a part of my community, and so we support each other, right?
We support each other.
Mhm.
Oh, yes. I almost forgot one community that I definitely want to shout out before I get out of here, and that is Net and Rhonda. They have a community called When Morning Comes, and that's
Mm.
for grieving. That is a space
Mhm.
that we navigate often in isolation, and we navigate that. Hey, Toya, over on Facebook, we navigate that space that's delicate. But I wanted to
Mhm.
make sure, I thank you, Holy Spirit, that that is a space that they have a YouTube, and they show up to really speak to the grief in that process. You mourn so much. People think you need to get back. What is 3 months when you've lost a loved one that was very close to
Mhm.
you, or 10 years? So it's not a linear thing, and it's not a time thing. And so I want to make sure, if you're not connected, and if you are going through grief or had a recent loss or a loss long ago, and you're still navigating that space and you feel like people don't understand, I encourage you to connect with Ned and Rhonda, their podcast, When Morning Comes. Thank you
Mm.
all so much for pulling up this Friday with me on Figured Out Friday, where you actually
Mhm.
no longer have to figure it out alone. We have amazing people like Kim Weaver, a mental health practitioner who does phenomenal work. She's out of Charlotte, North Carolina, but she shows up in the online space so that we can reach as many people as possible with the
Mhm.
word of God, as well as through these practical things, because we
Mhm.
need faith, and because we know that faith without works is dead.
Mhm.
Faith without works is dead. We got some work to do as we walk in our faith. So we're going to build up our faith muscles and walk through this process. Next Friday, make sure you pull up. I will have Essence out of New Orleans, Louisiana. She is a nonprofit founder of Heart and Hands, and we're going to be
Mm.
addressing heart health. And so, really excited that we just continue to do this work so that we can learn how to recover the recoverable, because all aspects of our health, spiritual, mental, physical, financial, social, they're all recoverable. Thank
Mhm.
you. We've had some good comments over here. Thank you, ladies. This has been very, very informative about our mental health. Thank you
Mhm.
so much. People have dropped in the chat. Peacock Soul Care. So, yes, make
Yes.
sure you connect. You guys, you ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Make sure, if you were on Facebook, I had a guest this morning, Kimberly Weaver out of Charlotte, North Carolina. You will be able to see and hear the full conversation on the replay on YouTube as well as LinkedIn. YouTube, that is going to be Doing Life Well with Regina, and LinkedIn is going to be my name, Regina Lack. And Kim, how can people stay connected with you or reach out to
Yeah,
you if they need to or want to connect as they want to connect with
sure.
you?
You can follow me on social media at Heal with Kimberly, or you can reach out to me on my website at kimberlyaweaver.com. And I offer free consultations. So would love to connect with you. If I'm licensed only in North Carolina right now. So if you are in North Carolina and want therapy, would love to do a consultation with you. Or if you would want something like spiritual direction, I would love to support you. And that I can work with anyone, anywhere with spiritual direction.
And you
So,
also mentioned that you do provide professional development as well. Speak to that before we get out of here.
yes. And so I'm also happy to offer trainings and workshops on faith, mental health, burnout recovery, trauma informed care, especially within your organizations. And so, yeah, you can also reach out on my website, kimberlyaweaver.com, for that as well.
Exciting, exciting. As you all may know, Doing Life with Integrative Health and Consultant, we are in the process of becoming a designated CE provider for social work CEs. And so Kimberly is going
Mhm.
to be one of my partners. So you will be able to get your needs met, get your CEs from a faith-based organization, faith-based company. So we are actually supporting one another in this work. Kim, thank you
Mhm.
so much. Facebook, thank you so much. See you all next week. Make sure you share this out. If any of it resonated with you, share it out. Head over and follow Kim, Heal with Kimberly. Thank y'all so much. Comment
Mhm.
when we post this replay again. Thank you, YouTube. Thank you, LinkedIn. And if you and or your organization is in need of a professional development, reach out to Kim if you are in this space where wanting to navigate some things with your team's health, as well as ways to just better show and allow that, get some more understanding around what does it look like in the workplace. We most
Because that
definitely
is a community too.
that is a community too. You spend over 8
Mhm.
hours with your work community a day.
Mhm.
So thank y'all again so much for pulling up on this Figured Out Friday. Facebook, we will see you all later.
All
LinkedIn
right.
as well as
Take care,
YouTube.
everyone.
Thank you. We will see you all later. Thank y'all for chiming in.